This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young.
President Trump has just announced a series of measures that are going to fundamentally change the international trading system.
The U.S. tariffs on dozens of countries globally are causing chaos in some very powerful economies. Canada managed to avoid U.S. President Donald Trump's broad swath of new tariffs announced yesterday, but it is still waking up to new economic pain this morning in the form of tariffs on the auto sector. Kate McKenna is following develops from our parliamentary bureau. And Kate, these tariffs are already having an effect on an assembly plant in Windsor, Ontario. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, just hours after President Donald Trump made his Rose Garden global tariff announcement, the union representing the workers at the Stellantis assembly plant in Windsor said workers will be off the job for 2 weeks starting Monday, and more changes are expected within the coming weeks. It says the primary driver behind the decision was Trump's auto tariffs, which came into effect at midnight. The tariff applies to vehicles made outside of the United States, but it's only levied on the value of all non-U.S. content in the vehicle. Since Canada and the United States have integrated supply chains, most Canadian vehicles will be tariffed less than 25%. Flavio Volpe is the head of the Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association.
And I can't believe I just heard Ontario's representative in Washington say it's a good thing that we only have 12.5% tariff in an industry that is 6 or 7% profit margin. That's both sides of the border.
It's unclear at this point how many people will be affected.
And Kate, what kind of political response is being mounted in Ottawa?
We're expecting to hear from Prime Minister Mark Carney today. He's meeting with the premiers later this morning. The Prime Minister warned if the U.S. falls into a recession, that could affect Canada too.
There is going to be an impact on the U.S. economy, which will build with time. In our judgment, it will be negative on the U.S. economy. That will have an impact on us. But the series of measures will directly affect millions of Canadians.
Canada has already announced about $60 billion in countermeasures for tariffs already in place. A larger package could be coming in response to the auto tariffs. Canada has identified another $95 billion of American goods it could hit with tariffs, but so far Carney hasn't specified how he will retaliate.
Thank you, Kate.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Kate McKenna in Ottawa. And we are hearing Stellantis says it is temporarily laying off 900 workers at 5 U.S. facilities. It's also pausing production at a plant in Mexico. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh says a trade war is like any other war. And if he becomes prime minister, his government will sell victory bonds.
A victory bond would be a guaranteed investment where you would purchase a bond, a 5-year or 10-year, and if you hold it to maturity, you would get all the revenue tax-free. So it's a way to raise money to be able to build the roads, the bridges, the infrastructure we need.
He says Canadians could buy victory bonds through a payroll deduction or over the counter. Stock markets around the world have been passing their judgment on Donald Trump's global tariff plan. Traders are being jolted by U.S. President Donald Trump's announcement yesterday. My World Report co-host John Northcott joins me with the latest. And John, what are we seeing in trading on the North American markets?
Marcia, it's a big thumbs down. North American markets lower. Much lower. Toronto opening 3% Dow. Dow Jones Industrial Average down almost 1,200 points. S&P down 3.3. NASDAQ down 4.3. Companies that manufacture many of the products in countries hit hard by the tariffs, paying the price on the trading floor. Shopify down some 15%. Amazon down 6%. Big tech, oil, all falling. Crypto taking a dramatic hit too. Even the flight to gold appears to be losing steam. And even if in some cases those industries under the Canada-US trade deal might not be hit as hard as others, everyone is wondering how to cope. Goldie Hyder is the president of the Business Council of Canada.
We do look at that and worry about workers, worry about the jobs, worry about the economic slowdown, worry about having a situation where you're adding to your deficit at a time in which you're not having a lot of growth, and recognize that this wake-up call, the importance of diversification, it's the right thing, but it's going to take time.
John, it's been that kind of a day around the world. What was the lead up to what we're seeing now on the North American markets?
Marcia, money and stocks were already beaten up as the sun moved around the trading world, with Japan's Nikkei down nearly 1,000 points. Hong Kong down too. Same story in Europe. The FTSE down. The DAX down. The numbers matter on any given trading day, for sure, but it is the uncertainty that really has traders and governments very worried about what the future in a Donald Trump post-tariff world will look like. Marcia?
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
My World Report co-host John Northcott. China was the country hardest hit by the tariffs announced yesterday, and today Beijing is calling the U.S. president a bully. This is stoking fears of an escalating trade war between the world's two biggest economies. Yenna Lee reports.
Strong words by China at a foreign ministry press briefing in Beijing today in response to President Trump's sweeping tariffs. Spokesperson Guo Jiakun says China opposes the move and will take firm measures to safeguard its legitimate rights. China's Commerce Ministry has already pledged to deepen trade talks with the EU, Japan and South Korea to counter Washington's moves. The additional 34% tariffs imposed by the US on Chinese exports brings total tariffs on Chinese goods to 54%. China has been the main target of Trump's trade actions. Cambodia was slapped with a 49% levy, Vietnam with 46%. Trump says both countries are being used by China to ship goods to the US. His administration also closed a loophole known as de minimis that has allowed China's e-commerce giants to reap huge profits from the US market. The move was on hold previously because of logistical problems related to goods inspections. The developments are deepening differences between Washington and Beijing. There's growing frustration in China over what many see as an effort to undermine the country's pandemic recovery as it faces major economic challenges. Yenna Lee for CBC News, Beijing.
India is facing 26% tariffs, but its government is taking a calmer approach in its response. India's junior finance minister says Trump's responsibility is to U.S. citizens, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's first priority is India. Modi's government is taking a wait-and-see approach. It is staying in touch with the Trump administration and wants to ensure their trade ties remain a pillar of mutual prosperity. The U.S.'s European allies are condemning Donald Trump's tariff plan. The president of the European Commission says Europe has been let down by its oldest ally. Ursula von der Leyen also says Trump has dealt the global economy a heavy blow, and she vows the EU will fight back. Crystal Gomansing reports.
We are in this together. If you take on one of us, you take on all of us.
Strength in numbers. That's the pitch from Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission president. She says every citizen around the globe could see the cost of food, transportation, and medicine increase. However, the 27 bloc of nations acting as a single market is powerful, even in the face of sweeping tariffs.
We are already finalizing the first package of countermeasures in response to tariffs on steel. And we're now preparing for further countermeasures.
With tens of billions of dollars in counter tariffs in the works, European leaders hope to negotiate their way out of the economic storm, as does the UK.
Last night, the President of the United States acted for his country. Today, I will act in Britain's interest.
Meeting with about a dozen major business leaders in London, Keir Starmer vowed to protect the UK's economy. The Prime Minister consistently calls the current trading situation with the US fair and balanced. The UK was hit with a lower levy of 10%. Starmer is trying to soothe fears and keep markets from overreacting, saying the UK will respond with cool and calm heads. A move that could also help avoid drawing the U.S. president's attention. Crystal Gomansing, CBC News, London.
Hungary says it is withdrawing from the International Criminal Court. The announcement comes as Benjamin Netanyahu is in Budapest on a state visit. The Israeli Prime Minister is facing an international arrest warrant over his conduct in the Gaza war. Hungary's Prime Minister is refusing to enforce the warrant. Viktor Orban is a close ally of Benjamin Netanyahu. He calls the arrest warrant outrageously disrespectful and cynical. And stay with CBC Radio for live coverage of the Government of Canada's response to the latest tariff moves by the United States. That begins at 8:30 Pacific Time. That is World Report for this hour. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.